What's going on, Kelvin?
Not much, man.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
What's going on?
Lots of things. I got married.
Explain yourself.
I got married. I had kids.
I told you.
I got my law degree.
You have to pull out, bro.
I went to space.
You went to space?
Yeah, dude.
How was that?
It was honestly a little disappointing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was super overrated?
Well, I mean, I got there and it's just like black. Like it's just space.
It was just dark as fuck.
Exactly.
Okay.
I was expecting to see some aliens or some shit.
You didn't see shit.
See, all these people are misguided. They went to Area 51 looking for aliens.
Oh my
That's
god,
dumb, bro! You
go
to space,
dude.
bro.
I was keeping my eye on what was happening. And did you see the video of the guy running?
The Naruto run.
Yeah,
Yes.
that shit was so funny.
Yeah, comedy.
Yeah,
dude. Holy crap! It feels like we've been away forever.
Yeah, 2 weeks I want to say, or
Yeah.
even close to 2 weeks.
A lot of shit has happened.
A lot of shit has happened.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And we're not gonna get to cover all of it.
Nope.
So sorry, guys.
So what's our plan for today?
All right, let's just start talking about UFC Copenhagen.
Okay.
Or however you pronounce that.
So
Let's
disclaimer,
see.
I'm assuming you saw it,
I did.
and I did not see it.
Correct.
So that night you had UFC. Where was it at?
It was in Denmark.
Okay, and then you had Bellator.
Correct.
So I was working during when the UFC card went on, and then close to the end of it,
Yep.
I got tickets to go see Bellator
Right.
at the Forum. So
Sick.
I did not see any of this fight, nor did I watch any of the fights afterwards. So this is going to be all based on what you see and how you interpret all these fights.
Yeah, so all right, I'll fill you in. So let's just talk about the main event real quick. You had Jack Hermanson, who's fighting Jared Cannonier. Two interesting guys that met for this fight, and kind of interesting career paths that they've had up to this point. So Hermanson has quietly been going about his business, and then obviously he blew up with that fantastic performance over Jacare. And then Cannonier has been like slowly moving down weight classes throughout his career. Now he's at middleweight, and he looks great. I mean, he really looks great. Beat David Branch. Then
You know what? Seeing him and how the UFC did photos of him at heavyweight, him at light heavyweight, him at middleweight shows me, you know what? I can do it too.
Right? Yeah.
I can do that shit too.
Yeah, shoot. Maybe I can come down to flyweight.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe I can get down to featherweight, bro.
Right.
I'm at 210.
Damn.
That'd be a crazy cut,
would.
bro. I'd be dead.
But yeah, he beat David Branch, beat Anderson Silva. So this was a good fight going in. So here's the way that, to me, the fight played out. I feel like Hermanson came out and didn't fight at his best because he seemed a little hyperactive. He seemed a little over energetic. Yeah, dude, he just came out. His movement, like, I don't know if it was nerves or whether he was overconfident. I don't know what it was, but he just didn't look normal. He didn't seem composed like he did versus Jacare. Came out, maybe it's because it's in his hometown, and winning this fight puts him in a good position, really good position. But he just came out very jittery. He was shooting takedowns where he wasn't really setting them up. He was moving a lot. He was throwing. It was a little odd. Meanwhile, Jared Cannonier seemed like he was kind of like being patient and just observing what was going on. And then eventually what happened was Jack came in. Jared caught him with a clean uppercut and finished him with strikes, ground and pound. So, I mean, it's kind of tough to take what it is that I take away from this fight because Jack obviously just got melted pretty much, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it wasn't the same Jared that we saw in his last fight. So who knows? I don't know if that's really just the state of where he's at, or maybe he just had the performance of his lifetime versus Jacare. I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens, who he gets matched up with, and how he looks in his next fight. But Jared Cannonier, on the other hand, it's fun to see a fighter where like they are continuously giving him like tougher and tougher fights and like new and new challenges, and he steps up to the plate.
Yeah.
Jared took this fight and he's fighting in hostile territory. Obviously, the one that's on the rise is Jack Hermanson, right? And he went in there and just did his business, did what he needed to do. Really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting.
Okay.
A lot
By
of
the
people,
way, so I'm looking at the rankings. Jared Cannonier went up 4 spots, so he's number 5.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit interesting. He's right below Kevin Gastelum and just above Jack Hermanson. So that fight really bumped him up in the rankings.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yep.
So just a quick little note. I don't want to digress too much, but I saw a lot of people have been asking for him to fight Yoel Romero next. Now, I don't know if I'm alone in this, But I feel like Yoel Romero should just call it a day.
You think so?
Yeah.
Or move up?
Or move up.
Would that make sense for him at this point in his career? Move up to 205?
Yeah, I mean, because coming off back-to-back losses. He lost to Paulo Costa.
No, well, he lost to Robert.
True. Yeah.
So
yeah,
it is back to
yeah,
back. Yeah.
I'm tripping. So he's lost to the champion, lost to Paulo, and when you have guys like Kelvin who's still in the mix,
Yep.
you guys have like Jared Cannonier, obviously Paulo Costa.
Yep.
It just seems like the climb back up to a title shot for him would be a little too steep.
Yeah.
Not to say that there isn't people in that same position at 205, but just because of his name and how interesting it would be for him to move up, who knows? Maybe it's a shorter path for him to the title if he moves up.
Maybe, because if you look at that light heavyweight, there really isn't that many contenders as of right now.
No, there's a lot
John
of people
Jones,
that look really good, but there's still work to do.
That too, and then John Jones has literally wiped out most of this division.
Yeah.
So he's just waiting on who's the next guy up, basically.
Right.
So
yeah,
it would make sense for him to move up, but we'll see. I mean, for him, making 185 is a tough cut. We've seen times already where he walks into weigh-in day and just looks like he's gonna die.
Yeah.
So and he's not getting younger. He's what, 40, 42?
42. Yeah.
42. So
now there may be some people watching with knowledge of the situation, and I already know where they're going, and that's that. There's a lot of people that have said that a fight between John Jones and Yoel would never happen because they're good buddies. They've said it wouldn't happen, and they're managed by the same company also.
Okay.
So who knows?
So you don't think that fight will ever happen?
Oh, I don't know. I just wanted to throw that in there because
Okay.
in case anybody's watching and thinking like.
To be fair, we've heard that from a lot of fighters, and yet they end up fighting. John Jones, Rashad Evans, Jorge Masvidal, and even Kobe might fight at one point.
Yeah.
We've seen this happen. So,
okay, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we don't know what the relationship is, so we can only see it as we see it. So.
Right. And then real quick, the co-main was kind of interesting. It was a bit of an older guy. He was making his UFC debut. This guy's name is Mark Madsen, and apparently he's a wrestler that represented Denmark, and he got an MMA a little bit later. He's undefeated, so it's kind of interesting.
Okay.
But he made quick work of his opponent in the first round, used his wrestling, and put on the ground and pound.
Okay.
But he's a little bit older, and I mean, I'm not the type of person to really call anybody a can. But his opponent, not really that well known, didn't really seem prepared. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if they give him a more formidable opponent.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see. Gilbert Burns versus Gunnar Nelson. Gilbert Burns, man.
That's right. I forgot Gunnar Nelson was on this card.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Gunnar Nelson. I think he's a very talented dude. But Gilbert, dude, moving up to welterweight, he's now on back-to-back fights where he's taking him on short notice, and he looks great, dude. He looks great. Really seems to be mixing up the elements well, like a true MMA fighter, using his jiu-jitsu, his wrestling, his striking, his kicks. He looks great, and he's still trying to fight. He was trying to fight like this week or next week or something. Like, dude's crazy. I dig it. We'll see what happens for him next. He called out. Who did he call out? Who did he call out? Neil Magny. I think he called out Neil Magny.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. I'm pretty sure. Okay. Ian Kutulaba fought Khalil Roundtree.
Okay.
I was really excited for that fight. I'm super high on Khalil Roundtree, especially after what he did to Eric Anders. Eric Anders is a tough dude.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I was looking forward to this fight because in the face-offs, at the weigh-ins, Ian Kutulaba got in his face and just like yelled super loud.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. That's hilarious.
And
he was just smiling afterwards.
Yeah. But holy shit, dude, Ian Kutulaba came out and fucking ragdolled him, basically.
So he beat Khalil?
He did.
Oh, wow.
He smashed him up.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, in my opinion, similar to the Jack Hermanson thing, not that Khalil was like jittery or like over aggressive.
Okay.
But to me, again, it seemed like it was a big problem to do with like mentality, game plan, and like body language to me. Khalil seemed overly relaxed and like trying really hard to seem unfazed and unbothered. Almost like thinking, I don't know, and this is just what I'm gathering from what I saw, right? But it seemed almost like he kept trying to ward off the idea that this guy was a threat, and this guy was definitely a threat. He used a lot of wrestling, and his ground and pound was absolutely fucking vicious. It's really sad. I was bummed.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Khalil Roundtree. We'll see what happens to him next. But Ian Kutulaba looked great. If he fights like that again, he's right there in the mix at 205.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Add that dude to the list of people whose stock is growing at 205. And then OSP gets his fucking 4th Von Flue choke, which, by the way, okay, so just to give you a little bit of information on this. So the Von Flue choke is basically this submission that was like come up with as a defense for the guillotine, where basically someone's trying to guillotine you and use their own shoulder and use it to submit them. And it's called the Von Flue choke because there's this guy, I believe his name is Jason, if I'm not mistaken, Von Flue, and he pulled off 2 of these chokes. So they named this submission after him. They called it the Von Flue choke, right?
Okay.
But the guy used it twice. OSP has now done it 4 times. So
Yeah.
people were like, why don't we just change the name again to the St. Preux or whatever? I don't know. Just adding that in there.
Okay.
Personally, I like calling it the Von Preux.
Yeah.
Just to kind of mix up the names, but that was kind of cool. And then Nicholas Dalby came back after some time away from the UFC.
Okay.
Looked good against Alex Cowboy Oliveira. That was pretty cool. And then Lando Venata lost again. Broke my heart. I love that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
So now, I mean, I didn't get to watch it, so.
Yep. That was quick.
Okay. So what do we got next? You want to go into my experience at Bellator, or
Yes,
you
sir.
want? Okay.
Yeah, let's tell us all about it.
So like I mentioned, I didn't see the UFC fight night.
Yeah.
But that morning I got notified by my boss that he had free tickets to Bellator, and that's why I texted you.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find someone. I ended up finding someone, and we ended up going. So we went to Bellator 228. Pitbull versus
Juan
Archuleta, and Machida versus Masasi.
Yeah.
And then you had all the other featherweight Grand Prix as well. Aaron McKee was on that card. His dad was on that card.
AJ
McKee. So I was excited when I heard I got tickets because it was a pretty big card.
Oh yeah.
So I got off work. We got there maybe around. Let's see. The main card started somewhere at 7. I probably got there around 8:45 to 8.
Oh shit.
Yeah, because traffic. And then my buddy that I went with, he had stuff going on, so I had to wait for him.
Okay.
So I didn't get to see, the entire fight card or even like the first 2 fights of the main card. I only got to see maybe like 3 fights of the main card.
Okay.
Maybe 4.
Yeah.
But so when I got there, I hate the form. I just hate that fucking arena. It's just so outdated.
It is.
The seats are so hard to like walk in between.
Yeah.
It's ugly as fuck.
Yeah.
I just hate that arena. And our seats didn't help. We were all the way up in the top. People call it Jesus seats, but that's where we were. I was hoping we were as close as possible, but we weren't. We were all the way to the top, so it was hard for me to see.
Yeah.
The first thing that I took away when I got to Bellator was the way their octagon set up is you have the ring in the middle, of course, and then to the left of it you have 2 projector screens.
Okay.
That are pretty big but not that big, right? And so they're showing what's happening on the octagon, like there's the feet of it
in the cage.
Correct. And then in the middle of those screens are the flags of the fighters who are champions. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah, that's freaking cool though.
That is pretty cool. So I was able to like visually see it, and my buddy that I took with me, he's not a big MMA fan.
Okay.
So he was asking me what's that, and I told him those are your current champions, right? Like you
that's
see,
sick. Yeah.
you see 2 pictures of Ryan Bader. That means he's a double champ, and then you see, what's his name? Lovato Jr.
Yeah.
Pitbull, and all the champions. Then on the right you have the main stage, and that's where the fighters walk out. So you have the little walkway with the red like ribbon.
Yeah.
Where they walk through
that WWE style entrance.
Exactly. And then each fighter that walks in has like their own little intro, which is cool, and the big screen.
Right.
So it's a cool setup, but I'm not a fan of it. Okay. Based on where I was sitting at. Yeah. The reason was because it was already difficult for me to see. Yeah. Like our view, like it was a little bit better view as far as where we were sitting at, but not that great, right? Because we were further away. All right. What made it worse was I can't refer to a screen when they were in situations where they're on the ground, and it's hard to see from your view, so you'll probably like look at the screen, right? Yeah. And it's hard because the way it's angled, it's like it's almost blocking.
Interesting.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I took a picture of when they announced Julia Budd and Cyborg.
Yeah.
I'll post it on there. I'll post on the podcast so you guys can see like what the angle looked like from my seat. And it wasn't that great. It was just hard to see. It didn't help that their lights kept fucking going through my section. So it's like it goes back and forth, and I'm getting blinded. I'm like, what the fuck? So I was getting pissed. So
you should write Scott Coker an email.
Yeah, dude, like what the fuck? You make it hard for me to watch these fucking fights. So that part of it I just wasn't a big fan of. And the first thing I told my friend was like, man, the way UFC sets up their event is 10 times better than Bellator. You know, it's like it's easy to see depending on where you're sitting at. You have the big jumbo screens because usually they do it on big arenas.
Yeah, I mean, when
like
we went to 241.
Yeah, Honda Center, Staples Center. They do it at MSG. So most of the arenas that they do it at, there is already the screen in the middle. Yeah. So it was so easy to like, okay, you're watching the fight, then you can quickly look up and then see what's really going on and get a better view. So that really helped.
Right.
But this one, it was just, it was getting difficult to really pay attention. So that part of it really took away from my experience.
You know what I'm curious about?
What's that?
What people that went to UFC 231 had to say. Was it 231? John Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson.
Where was that at?
It was at the Forum.
Was it really?
Yeah.
You know what? What I should do is pull up pictures and see what that setup was.
Yeah, because if you remember, they were supposed to do that fight in Vegas.
And then they moved it. I remember that. What was it? 240 or 230?
I think it was 231, if I'm not mistaken.
231 photos. You know what? I am interested to see, I just hate the Forum guy. I don't know why it's still standing. No, 231 was Ortega and Holloway.
Oh, yeah. So, fuck, what was it?
I know it was after that, right?
It was, it was after that. So, was it 232?
232. Yeah, it was.
232.
I'm going to have to...
Oh, train time. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's bad.
Yeah, well, I'll put the logo up again. Choo-choo. Choo-choo train.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not showing the top of it. I'll scroll through it and see if I can find a photo of what the setup was. But if it just so happened to be, it was just that particular arena, and maybe other arenas, maybe they do use a screen. I don't know.
Yeah.
If they do, I hope they do, because man, it makes it so much easier to watch these fights. But yeah, that alone really made the experience not great.
Okay. What about the fights though?
The fights were great. So I saw AJ McKee against, I don't remember the guy's name.
Georgie Caracarian.
Something like that.
Which, by the way, he's a Riverside guy.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
That's what people were saying.
Yeah,
because I heard people over talking about it.
Riverside guy.
Disclaimer, I know a couple of the fighters in Bellator, like the main guys.
Yeah.
I'm not knowledgeable on a lot of the roster, so when I mention some of the notable fighters, there are fighters who I don't know. So just a disclaimer.
Yeah.
So I did know who AJ?
Yes.
AJ McKee is. So right off the bat, he just went straight at his opponent. As soon as he punched him, put him to the ground. I jumped out of my seat. Everyone else around me jumped out of our seat, and he just put him away, and the crowd went nuts.
Isn't it crazy, dude?
Nuts.
Father and son both get a finish in the same event.
Yeah, so I didn't know his dad was fighting.
Antonio McKee.
But what I remember was after he knocked him out or KO'd him, he went to the octagon, did a fucking backflip.
The cage. Octagon is
or the cage. The cage, okay. He did a backflip off the cage, and I was like, holy shit. He's super pumped.
Yeah.
So that was awesome to see. Afterwards, they did Pitbull against Juan Archuleta.
Yeah.
I personally had Pitbull. I think I had him winning 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so
he was really Archuleta, he was being a bit conservative in the beginning.
Yeah,
but Pitbull was so smart. I mean, he was just like timing the shots perfectly. He wasn't being overly aggressive until it got to the ground in certain situations, and I was just so impressed by him.
Dude, it was odd, man. Again, and I will preface this by saying that I'm not a fighter. I'm not in the cage. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it's like, right? This is all just from a pure fan perspective. But the fight opens up, and Pitbull is taking his place in the center of the cage.
Yes.
Right?
Like at one point, they're really not moving. They're just standing there in the cage.
So I liked that attitude. I liked Pitbull's attitude. If he went right to the middle and he wasn't using a whole lot of movement, he basically stood there and said, I'm the king. I'm the champ.
Yeah, he was very patient in the beginning of the fights.
Juan, to his credit, obviously, I mean, he's got to find his shot. But to me, he was using a lot of footwork. Yeah. Right? He was circling the cage, moving a lot. And for the first 2 rounds, it seemed like that's pretty much all he did was just circle around him and was trying to find shots in here and there. And you got to wonder, like, this is why I bring it up, because you have to wonder, like, to me, the amount of distance that Juan covered versus the amount of distance that Pitbull covered there's a difference there. Like, Juan was moving so much because Pitbull was just in the middle of the cage and basically was just turning to face Juan wherever he was going, while Juan's like moving around and using his footwork and moving here and there. And it wasn't until, I mean, the 3rd round, if I remember correctly, I mean, it didn't look so hot, but especially in the 4th and 5th round, once Juan really started to open up, it was a competitive fight. Yeah. Juan was landing shots.
Yeah, he was.
Pitbull was landing shots. I wonder what it would have been like if we would have got 5 rounds of that.
Well, it was a 5-rounder.
I know, but I mean, like, 5 rounds
of
Juan, like, just going out there and getting at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I had Archuleta maybe winning a round or 2, but I did have Pitbull winning that fight. Yeah. And then right after that fight, they did the featherweight
selection show. How was that?
It was cool. Like, again, it was hard to view because of our angle, but it was cool seeing it live. Yeah. And then I love the setup. Right. The whole process that they did was actually pretty awesome.
It was pretty dope.
I enjoyed the shit out of it.
Now, I'm not saying that I would like the UFC to do that, right? I think it's cool that they do different things. But I just love this about Bellator. Again, I don't want the UFC necessarily to do this, but I like that Bellator's around to do cool shit like this.
It was a fun, neat thing to do to make it different.
Yeah,
like absolutely. I really like that.
And I'm sure the fighters must have enjoyed it too.
I'm sure,
they get to pick the month that they want to fight. They got to pick their opponent.
They got to pick their opponent, and then there was a twist in the end where Pitbull got to either pick what was end up being the left. The only slot left, or he can switch with another fighter. Yeah, I was hoping he was gonna pick to go against AJ McKee. That's what I was hoping.
Yeah. So I'm glad that we brought this up because there's something to be discussed about this selection thing. So, and even Scott Coker talked about this. So, it was kind of interesting to me that I was hoping that somebody was going to pick to fight somebody before all the slots filled up.
That's what I was hoping too.
But all the slots filled up.
And every time, like, so the first 4 picks, when the fighters didn't fight or pick a fighter, the crowd booed them.
Yeah, exactly, right? So what I'm getting at is it gets down to Pitbull's choice, right? Yeah. And he goes, I want some rest. I want to fight in March, I think he said, right? Which is fine. Yeah. You're the champion. You've fought I don't know how many times this year. I get it, right? Cool. You want to take the holidays off with your family and then get back to training in January or whatever? Yeah. Totally fine. However, you had 2 choices for March.
You had Darren Caldwell.
Yeah, Darren Caldwell and Pedro Carvalho. Yeah. It was very disappointing to see him pick Pedro.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I'm sure everyone in that arena was hoping he'd pick Darren Caldwell.
Even Scott Coker said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, whatever.
But then again, it's like when you do that kind of process, you have to also expect, like, fighters want to do the best for them. Yeah. Can't really knock on them, Right. So I'm sure we all want to see it, but if that's the route he wants to go with, I mean, that's when you give a freedom to a fighter, they're going to do what's best for them.
Right. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if they do end up seeing each other in this tournament, though. Yeah. Pitbull and
so, what's your thoughts on how the bracket's set up? Where where the fighters are, what we are potentially looking at? Yeah. Because I think Caldwell and AJ McKee are in the same side of the bracket. Yeah. Which can potentially.
Well, there's 4 fighters, and it should be pretty obvious, but there's 4 fighters that I'm really looking at in this tournament.
AJ McKee, Darren Caldwell,
the
Pitbull,
champion, and Adam Boric.
I'm not too familiar with. That's the guy that knocked
out Aaron Pico.
Ooh. Yeah. You know what? I remember him because he was having beef with, I think, AJ McKee. Yeah. And he didn't even pick him, so that was funny.
I'm glad Aaron Pico's not in this tournament.
Yeah, after his back-to-back losses, no.
Knockout losses. Yeah. And he's young, dude.
Yeah. I was surprised James Gallagher didn't maybe want to move up to this tournament.
Yeah. Although he's kind of in his own lane right now.
For sure.
It's probably better for him, honestly.
Yeah, but you want to see that guy because like he's
so young too.
He's young. He's in the spotlight. I would love to see him avenge his loss against. I don't know what his name is. He knocked James Gallagher out 2 fights ago. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the guy that Sweet Chin Music him.
Yeah.
Ricky Bandejas.
There you go. I would love to see him maybe run it back and avenge that loss. But yeah, I know it's. The big difference with Bellator and UFC is like there's not really structure there.
Right.
There is no rankings.
Right.
So it's really up to.
Well, at least not like.
Because there isn't we know he's next because based on this ranking, right?
Yeah.
It's like everyone kind of is on limbo.
Yeah.
Unless you've built that what's the word I'm looking for? Like built that hype.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that's only a knock of it, but there's pros and cons to not having some kind of structure, I guess.
Real quick though, speaking of James Gallagher, did you see a lot of people were questioning whether or not his victory was legit?
Yes and no. But before we get there, let's finish off the Bellator. But yes and no. So where was I at? The selection show. Loved it. Thought it was a great idea.
Yep.
Scott Coker wants to do it on the next tournament, which I believe would be light heavyweight. Is that what he said?
Okay.
I think he said the next tournament he's doing next year is light heavyweight.
That's cool.
Or middleweight. I can't remember, but one of the two. And he wants to use that selection show again, which is a great idea. I love it. Keep on doing it. Okay, so after that, we had Machida and Masasi.
Yeah.
Now, the arena was like half of it was rooting for Machida. The other half was rooting for Gegard.
Okay.
I personally was rooting for Machida.
Okay.
He's an old school UFC OG,
right.
and I want to see guys like that continue to be thriving in the sport.
Yeah.
So I was rooting.
The guy's in his 40s.
Yeah, man. And so I knew going into this fight not to expect the same fight we saw years ago when they fought the first time in the UFC. Different stages in their careers with Machida being older and Gegard looking much better than that original fight. I walked away from this fight being very impressed by Gegard. He just went straight at and what I didn't like about Machida was he seemed like he was relying too much on his kicks.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
He wasn't throwing as many strikes.
Right.
That I want him to.
Okay.
And when he tried to go fist to fist, Gegard was really getting the best of him.
Yep.
And he put him down a couple times. So, my friend messaged me saying he wished it was a 5-rounder.
Yeah.
Because I had Gegard winning 2-1.
Okay.
I felt like he won the first 2 rounds, and then the last round I had Machida.
Okay.
So, Gegard looked very impressive to me. Very impressive. Train.
Well, dude, honestly.
Train.
Yeah.
Train.
Yeah. I mean, you can hop on Wikipedia and look up Gegard Mousasi.
Yeah.
He's got one of the best records. Not records like
Well,
numbers.
he has over 40 wins, man.
Yeah.
He's fought over.
And I don't just mean like record like his numbers. I'm talking about the names and the victories on that resume.
Yeah.
He's got one of the best ever. One of the best resumes ever. Like, you look at some of the wins on there, it's crazy.
Yeah. So I walked away. Did you watch the fight?
Yeah, I did.
So what was your take on the fight?
To be honest with you, I was a little disappointed.
By who?
Both of them.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was not disappointed by Machida. Machida. Of course I was disappointed in Machida.
I'll say this. By Mousasi?
Mousasi.
Yeah.
He looked good, and he put it on Machida. I would have hoped that he would have knocked him out.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was rooting for Machida, but Machida really disappointed me.
Yeah, I was
expecting him to come out fast.
When I say that I was disappointed, I'm not saying that it was a bad fight. It's just that I expected a little bit more. I expected a war.
That's fair.
I expected like something nuts.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was a pretty just standard fight.
It was slow for sure. I think in the beginning it was a bit slow, but right away Gegard wanted to be aggressive.
Right.
It looked like.
But that's back-to-back now performances from Gegard that are a little disappointing to me.
The one against, what was the one before that when he lost his belt?
Jr. Which, interestingly enough, did you see that he said he wants to rematch Rafael
and retire
if he doesn't beat him?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, not if he doesn't beat him. He said, I'm going to knock him out, and if I don't, I'll retire.
Yeah, that's what he said. I love that confidence. I love that attitude.
Take my money.
That's it.
I've got to take it.
I'm going all for it, and if I don't, I'm done.
Exactly.
Love it.
he's playing. Shout out to Manny wherever he's at. He's playing Dub or Get Off.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, man. So that was my takeaway of the fight. Machida, I don't know where he goes from here. Scott Coker was saying that he should maybe move up to light heavyweight.
Yeah, I mean he just fought there.
Yeah.
He his last fight was versus Chael Sonnen at 205.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he
so
looked
we'll
great.
see. We'll see, man.
He was throwing fucking flying knees
Yeah.
at 205.
I just would have loved to see him be more aggressive in his striking. It just seems like he was leg kicking and trying to time a really good leg kick, and it didn't work out against Masasi.
Right.
Because Masasi was just being aggressive, and when he hit him hard.
Yeah.
And Machida seemed like he just didn't want any part of that. So
right.
that was my interpretation of the fight, and I hope we get to see them both back in the octagon soon.
Also, flying under the radar, Michael Venom Page got another dub this weekend.
We did.
Yeah.
But I got 2 more things to mention before we get to that card.
Oh,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So last 2 things. They announced... No, you know what? Before I talk about that...
All right.
So the environment at that fight.
Okay.
I was texting you. It's
right.
A bit disappointing.
Yeah.
The crowd was good, not great. As in, there was so many empty seats.
Yeah.
And that was a bit disappointing to me because this is a big card for Bellator, and I was expecting this to be a packed house, and it wasn't. There was so much empty seats, and UFC, like, I mean, we went to such an amazing card that it's hard to compare the two.
Right.
Because, like, man, it was so packed. The entire arena was packed in the Honda Center.
We went to the return of Nate Diaz.
Yoel
versus Paulo.
Yep.
And DC versus Stipe,
yeah.
too.
So it's unfair to really compare the two.
Right.
But still, I was expecting a much bigger crowd, and it was not that.
Interesting.
A lot of empty seats, so I was a bit disappointed in that. And I hope people really, like, tune in and watch Bellator. There are great fighters there. They put on great fights. Scott Coker is an unbelievable promoter.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that they want to separate themselves as far as how they go about their business than UFC, right?
They do things that the UFC will never do.
They do things that I think make people like want to, like how, I guess what I'm saying is like they tailor towards what people want, right?
Now, the only thing that I will say is that, and again, we're both on the same page here. We're both on the side of that we like this. We want to see more of this.
Mm-hmm.
However, we also have to consider that they risk running into territory where it becomes a little bit too much, and they begin to get gimmicky.
Okay.
Because like the UFC is like all bread and butter. I mean, this would have been the perfect thing to say before this BMF belt thing, because now the BMF belt, that's like a Bellator type of thing.
For sure.
But other than the BMF belt, the UFC is like just very straight and narrow.
Right.
They just stick to it.
Right.
It's just all business.
Yeah.
Right. So does somebody, if you're trying to convert somebody from a casual to like an actual MMA fan, and let's just face it, if we're turning them an MMA fan, it's mostly a UFC fan,
right?
So if we're trying to and then transition them to like also watch Bellator,
right?
If they are used to like seeing all of this like just straight business approach from the UFC, and then they go to Bellator and they see like the WWE walkouts and like all this stuff, there's just that potential that people are
for
like,
sure.
Oh, that's just
and granted, like I think the UFC's been doing this longer than Bellator.
Yeah.
And so like when you ask a casual, just a regular guy, hey, do you like MMA? Oh, you mean a UFC?
Yeah, exactly.
That says a lot right there.
Right.
So I think Bellator is heading in the right direction, right?
Yes.
Like this little the bracket show was awesome.
Yeah.
The cross promotion stuff they're doing with Ryzen is fucking fantastic, and I love that. And then the Grand Prix. Yeah, dude. Like, how do you not love that shit?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so fucking
and
awesome.
At the end of the day, there's still world-class talent there.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
I think what the UFC benefits from is not only have they done it longer, but, I mean, they just have stars.
Yeah.
Star appeal. And that's what makes them the UFC, and that's what makes...
on ESPN.
That's going to help them out even more.
Which is honestly, I think one of the things that makes it the hardest for Bellator right now is that it's a fucking mess to watch some of these Bellator events. You see what happened with UFC 220. Well, first of all, the title of it was UFC Bellator 227/Dublin. That was the name of the event. Mm-hmm. Bellator 227/Dublin. So
right.
Like, all right, is this Bellator 227 or is this Bellator Dublin? Right. And then they're on tape delay, which is like the biggest turnoff for a viewer. And then they do like all these like, for example, people complain about how hard it is to watch like the early prelims to the main event on UFC, and it because like one of them will be on ESPN, the other's on ESPN Plus, and like the last one's on pay-per-view. Yeah. Like if people complain about that, try like watching it on Paramount and then watching it on DAZN and then watching it on the app. Like it's just
for sure
it's a lot. And then on top of that, they also do post-limbs, which like they're the only major MMA promotion that I know of that does post-limbs.
I wonder if Bellator would possibly benefit from taking that slot that the Fox slot that the UFC left. Like maybe say, hey, I know you didn't work out a deal with the UFC, but hello.
Dude.
Maybe they can benefit from that and then have, you know, how WWE had that Monday Night Wars against WCW.
Yeah.
Maybe they can have a similar type war and try to gain the casual sports fans' attention and say, hey, there's another promotion that you should also be looking at.
Yes.
And if you really want to get to MMA, hey, look at this side and what we do differently.
Scott Coker, he's available.
Yes,
send him an email.
I shouldn't say that. I was going to say I'm looking for a new job and my boss might be watching this. Yeah, no,
dude, that's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea. And I think like for Bellator, I think they should focus on continuing to build these MMA guys.
Yes.
Get them into star potential.
Yes.
That's how you're going to bring more attention. And the UFC has done that perfectly. Building stars like John Jones, like Dana Cormier, like Conor, Khabib now.
Actually,
they invest all their resources into these guys, promote these guys, make them stars. And that's what's going to bring people to come watch these and buy the pay-per-views.
Right. That is a really tricky...
It is tricky.
...argument because there's a lot of people... in fact, one that I know in particular that will argue, and he's in it.
Okay.
That that Bellator does a far better job of promoting than the UFC does. There's and here's the thing. Like for example, like it's hard, but this is why it's a tricky argument because both sides have good points. The UFC does do a really good job of promoting. Look at all the shit that's going on for UFC 242.
Okay.
The posters are sick. They're fucking everywhere. Right?
So who is one guy you think is the best promoted in Bellator?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because what I was going to ask you is, okay, if you take that guy, and then let's take a random, highly promoted guy in the UFC, let's say John Jones.
Yeah.
Why isn't he a much bigger star than John Jones if they're investing heavily on that particular guy in Bellator?
Let me put it to you this way. I feel like, here's basically where I fall in this argument. I feel like the top.
I'm sorry that these two dogs here. I don't know what's going on.
My two pooches are usually very well behaved.
I'm gonna put a doggy emoji on the screen when you hear that noise.
So, the top 5 to 10% of UFC fighters that the UFC does a really good job of promoting, they promote them better than anybody that Bellator promotes. Okay. So like I say, the top 5 to 10% of the most promoted people,
like the Conors, the John Jones, the Khabibs. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Right, but. Like from bottom to top, like the core, the middle, not the top 5%, but like the middle 20 to 80%. Right. I feel like Bellator does.
Oh no, I absolutely agree with you.
You know,
I agree. But is that part of it gonna bring in the casual audience?
No,
because we're not
talking. You want superstars.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like we're not trying to cater to just MMA junkies.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. If you want to grow your promotion, you've got to bring in casuals.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you don't, you're just gonna have, like I saw, a half-packed Forum arena of just MMA people. You're not gonna pack the house.
Right.
It's a business.
Yeah, exactly.
And you
I feel like, and that's such a tricky situation that I'm sure a lot of businesses are in, but. It's like one of those things where like the product is great. I feel like
the product is great.
I feel like, and obviously we don't live in a perfect world, right? This would be a silly thing to do. But let's say hypothetically, all of those empty seats.
Yeah.
They counted every single one of those empty seats.
Okay.
And they just got those tickets and they just handed them out for free, right? Just all the seats didn't get stolen, right? I would venture to guess that a large percentage of the people that went in for free that like never heard of it before would be at least interested in going again.
I would go again.
So the problem isn't the product. If you have people go to the product's great. The problem is getting them there, getting them involved enough to get there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And so that's where I feel like the star power needs to improve in Bellator.
Because like
as far as the top 5% that you alluded to earlier.
Because like let me put it to you this way. Obviously they have times where the UFC and Bellator are going to go head to head. If Scott Coker's smart though, which he is, a lot of those he avoids them. Like when their really big cards are on, it's maybe a smaller card for the UFC and vice versa.
Okay.
But like let me put it to you this way, right? And we're in those positions because we're fans in the United States.
Yes.
If 2 fights are on the same night, right? Let's say you're a Southern California resident, which we are. You have 2 options for MMA that night. You have Bellator 228 and you have UFC Copenhagen, right? If I have the option of staying home and watching UFC Copenhagen or going to UFC or Bellator 228, the obvious option should be going to Bellator 228.
Right.
And you just watch the UFC card on ESPN Plus later or something,
Agreed.
right? So to me, that's a missed opportunity there. If there's that many seats there and you have and also the card was in the beginning of the day. It was in the middle. It was
the UFC card.
The UFC card was in the middle of the day. So
it didn't end until what, 6?
No, earlier than that. It was over
5.
It was over at
I think it was. Yeah.
It was over at 2.
Yeah, because I was at work looking at my feed on Bleacher Report.
The main card started at 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was over by and there was a lot of quick fights. So there was it was over fairly soon.
Yeah.
Fairly early.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just feel like the key for Bellator to grow this promotion is to really grow stars, and they have fighters that have the potential to be stars, right?
Yeah.
Douglas Lima, MVP, James Gallagher, I feel like has the potential. He has a personality to really bring butts in the seats.
Yeah.
So they have a foundation there. They just need to grow that top 5%, because ultimately in sports, it's heavily about the fighters, the players, the individual person.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to get people to attend your events and watch.
And it's going to take some time too.
It will take some time, but I think we both can agree they have a great foundation.
They do.
Which is a good thing to have in your back pocket.
Yes.
And they're heading in the right direction.
And let's just put it this way, and maybe we can even end it there. I mean, we're the whole point of this show is we want to talk to people that know what they're talking about. Obviously, they can keep up with this, but we also want people that maybe don't know that much about MMA or that are getting into MMA, right? Bottom line, if you want to know MMA, like MMA, and get into MMA, you should be watching Bellator.
Absolutely. If you really want to broaden your horizon and your knowledge about MMA, look at other promotions.
If you're asking yourself, is it worth it to watch Bellator?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Bellator, Ryzen, even ONE FC is doing.
One's doing great stuff.
And I love that they're really starting to market more in North America.
Yeah. LFA does great stuff too.
So, I mean, just know, guys, for just the casual fans, there's a bigger world out there than just UFC.
Yes.
There really is.
Yeah.
And I found that out early, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
now my favorite thing, and I'm so glad we finally get to talk about this weekend.
Wait. Do we still want to highlight Dublin?
Cut. We'll edit this part out. Let me figure out.
Okay.
And we're back.
And we are back. Sorry, guys.
What?
We were saying, should we talk about Dublin?
Well, what about it?
Bellator.
Well, we touched on Gallagher. We touched on.
But did you want to talk about the fight?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's people talking about whether or not the win was legitimate. People actually throwing out the idea that this might have been a work. Like WWE, they planned this.
You think so?
So
I didn't get to see that fight, so I just.
So the reason people are saying that is because the argument is that the guillotine, because he won via guillotine, that it wasn't actually really all that locked up.
Yeah.
And I was.
I saw, and I saw his hand moving against. Arm or whatever.
Well, I mean, he was tapping.
Yeah.
And I was insanely skeptical at first, right? Because I was watching it, and the position, it looked right. He had the leg over. It looked tight. His elbows were in the correct position. I was like, that looks like a tight guillotine to me.
Yeah.
But there is a still shot from behind where you could see, and it just, I don't know. I'm not saying that it wasn't actually put in, but to me, just from what I saw, it looked like that guillotine was not tight enough.
Okay,
to
interesting.
Cause a tap.
Interesting.
Which it is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not in the
So you feel like the other MMA fighter was faking a submission? Is that what you're claiming right now?
No, I'm not.
Okay, what are you saying?
I'm just saying that if something ever comes out where that confirms that the guy basically tapped easy or whatever,
he didn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, that I wouldn't be shocked.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's tough to say.
Yeah. You want to go quickly into MVP, and I don't know the guy's name that
Richard
he beat.
Kiley. Yeah, so a lot of people don't know about Richard Kiley because he doesn't have that many fights, and Obviously, he was fighting a guy like MVP, who's well known. But Richard Kiley can fight, and that dude talks a mad amount of shit. He's been talking shit since he got into Bellator. He was calling himself the face of Bellator, all this stuff. I mean, I dig it. It was cool. But MVP gave him the work. Completely outclassed him in every regard.
Yeah.
And then the controversy came from Michael Venom Page got docked a point for unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah, so I was reading about that.
They stopped the fight once because they were taunting each other and all this nonsense.
And then he got in it with the ref.
Yeah, and then he got into it with Dan Miragliotta.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, it's unfortunate that happened.
Okay.
But both guys are like that. I mean, both guys are crazy personalities. Richard Kiley in particular was talking a bunch of shit, and MVP loves to rub it in. So
yeah,
I don't have a giant problem with it. I hope it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
But overall, the win. I need people to understand this though. Go do your homework. Go do your research. Go watch some fights. This Richard Kiley guy is not a can. Like, the guy can fight. He just got completely outclassed by Michael Venom Page.
Yeah. Well, I didn't watch the fights because, you know, whenever they do European cards, they do it super early.
Yeah.
And I'm at work. So, yeah, that was just a quick discussion about Bellator, and I think we're ready to move on to...
Oh, my God. Yes.
What is UFC 243 at Melbourne?
Yes.
Melbourne. Australia, what's looking like it's going to be the highest attended UFC event of all time. So
and I just want to give out a quick shout out to my homegirl Katie. Good
Katie,
friend
if you're watching this,
yes,
you don't know me, but
this is a good guy right here.
I'm a good guy. I was gonna say I'm just that you're going. I was gonna go there. Okay, so let me pull up the card, and I'm gonna throw it out there. It's not a big card.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about it. I mean, I wish it was a much bigger card, but there's not a whole lot of fights that get me out of my seat, so I'm just going to throw it out there.
So I'm going to put it this way. We didn't really dive into any prelims or anything like that like I normally like to. And I will also say this. I'm typically the person that is fighting against people who call certain cards weak.
Sure.
Because most of the time that someone says, like, oh, this is a weak card, I like go in there with a fine-tooth comb and I look at some of the stuff on the prelims and stuff, and I'm like, there's good fights on here. I don't know what people are talking about, right? Now, I'm sure I'll get proven wrong, and a week from now I'll be eating my words. Mm-hmm. But just on paper, this is legitimately a weak card.
So I'm only looking at the main card.
Yeah.
Right? It's a weak card. For starters, Holly Holm and Raquel Pennington got canceled.
It did, yeah.
And then we got, I don't even know who these guys are. Sorry, Justin Tafa and
Jorgen de
Castro.
Okay, so look,
I have no idea who these guys are. I'm sorry.
You'd be hyped for this fight.
Okay.
If
I knew them.
No, listen to me. I told you from like earlier when Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series came on. I said, watch Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series fight. There are really good fights on there. Jorgen de Castro got his contract from Contender Series this season and looked great. So I'm really excited to see him fight.
I can't say the same, so I'm sorry.
He's a heavyweight who throws like Justin Gaethje-like leg kicks.
Okay.
It's crazy.
The fight after that is Luke
Jamo
and Diego Lima. So the only reason why I'm even paying attention to this fight is because you told me that Diego Lima is actually
Douglas Lima's
little brother. Is he a little brother or older brother?
Little brother. No, don't quote me on that.
You don't know. Okay, but he's a brother.
Yeah.
So that will be the only reason why I'm looking for this fight. Teo Tuivasa.
Tai Tuivasa.
Tuivasa. So he is the chewy. You know what's the little thing? The shoey. The shoey guy. That's how I refer him to, the shoey guy. So
he needs a win.
Yes, he does. He's 8-2, and he's going against Sergey Spivak, 9-1. Don't know who Spivak is, but I do know who Mr. Shui is. So.
Oh man, this will be a real bummer if Ty loses this fight.
Yeah, so I'll be keeping my eye on that one. We got Reginal Iaquinta, and Dan Hooker.
God, I can't wait for this
You
fight.
rave a lot about Dan Hooker.
Yes.
I don't think I've seen him fight before.
Okay.
And I've seen Iaquinta fight.
So just do me a favor. Just don't watch Dan Hooker fight Edson Barboza, and then everything else is fantastic.
Check and check. So, but yeah, I'm going to be looking at that fight. And then, of course, drum roll.
Holy shit.
The main event, the championship, the interim champion, Israel Adesanya, will be taking on Robert Whittaker.
Yes. And
to claim the crown of the middleweight division.
Yeah. And now I've discussed this a couple times with a bunch of different people, and the same reaction always happens, right? So I want to make this very clear.
Yeah.
This is the biggest fight in UFC history in that part of the world.
So let's hold on. Let's take a step back.
Yes.
Because when people say biggest fight,
yes,
there's different interpretations as far as what does that mean?
Yes. So now, first of all,
what do you mean when you say biggest fight?
So two things, right? Because that's a really important distinction to make. In terms of gate and in terms of like the amount of people going, attendance, this is expected to be the biggest fight in UFC history in terms of attendance.
Okay.
How many people are there?
And I will not disagree with you on that part.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, which is the first thing that I said, which is this is the biggest fight in UFC history in that part of the world. I believe that is an accurate statement also.
I think so too, yeah.
Not even just to mention like the location of it, right? Because Ronda versus Holly Holm.
I was going to just say that. Do you think this is an even bigger fight than Ronda and, was it Holm?
Yes.
Holly Holm?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Because it combines both of the things that would be necessary for that to happen.
For sure.
It combines two people that are from there.
Okay.
And and both of those dudes that are from there are big names in the UFC.
Yeah.
Israel has had one of the fastest rises to stardom that we've seen in the UFC, right? And Robert Whittaker has solidified himself as an absolute fucking murderer at 185.
Yeah,
and he's the first Australian champion.
Yeah.
You know? So, good Lord. I mean, this might be the first time I've ever actually called a card weak, but I am so unbelievably excited for this fight that it makes up for it.
Me too.
Holy shit.
Me
so
too.
We're going to spend quite a bit of talking about this fight.
Okay.
So
then let's just go right into it, right?
Let's
just talk about Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya. So what is this fight going to look like?
Yeah, exactly. So so many things. So first I want to talk about how these two dudes got here, right? So Robert Whittaker is coming off of back-to-back victories and fights over Yoel
Romero,
which is basically like being run over by a train twice. Like,
pretty much, yeah.
Or being struck by lightning twice.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you have to wonder what that did to him physically.
Right.
Right? He says, and I'm not saying that he's lying, but I believe that he's in the best shape that he's ever been in and that his tools are the sharpest that
I
they've
hope
ever
so.
been in, right? But what kind of shape is his body in? Because not only did he take both of those fights versus Yoel, he's been riddled by injuries. He was supposed to defend February of last year in Australia versus Luke Rockhold, I want to say. Or was it
No,
Yoel?
not Luke Rockhold.
It was supposed to be Yoel, and then Luke stepped in last minute.
Okay.
If I have that correct. But he pulled out of that fight because of Staff, which sucks. You have Staff.
He's supposed to go against Kelvin.
No, that was
Kelvin
earlier this year.
Oh.
That was earlier this year. I'm talking about earlier last year, 2018.
That's right. You're right. Okay.
He got Staff, which already sucks, and then he got Staff in the fucking stomach, which like holy shit, right?
Yeah.
That sucks. And then he had to pull out of the fight with Kelvin because of a herniation in his fucking intestines, right?
Yeah.
Nuts, absolutely nuts, right? But if put that aside and you just look at the performances themselves, really important. It showed a lot of important things. It showed that in that first fight with Yoel, he fucked up his knee in the first round. He fought the rest of that fight with a fucked up knee, right? And this last fight, was it a broken hand?
Yeah.
Broken hand.
I think it was.
The first or second, fought that entire fucking fight with a broken hand, and he got rocked many times.
He got rocked a couple times against Yoel,
so,
where his legs were shaking.
Yes, and he was also fighting against a fucking Olympic wrestler and did well stuffing takedowns in the wrestling department, right? So a lot of people are saying that this is going to be the best version of Robert Whittaker we've ever seen, which is a scary thought. I believe it.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I think we will. He's also been spending time, and Luke Thomas actually pointed this out, that in the meantime he hasn't been in the cage, but he's been competing elsewhere. He was competing in wrestling for the Australian team.
Yeah.
And then also I've seen him at least on one occasion do some grappling training with Craig Jones, who's an absolute fucking murderer. That's the guy that we saw at 241 that I told you about after the fight when we were waiting for your buddy. And I was like, I think that's Craig Jones.
That's right. I remember you pointing someone out. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in an ideal situation, we have the best version of Robert Whittaker we've ever seen.
Okay.
He should be fresh, because he's had some time away from the cage.
Yes, he has.
So that covers Robert. Israel, we've seen what Israel has done to get here, and it's been absolutely amazing.
It's been incredible,
right?
Man. It's been incredible.
So just like we've seen Robert have to deal with adversity and all that in his fights with Yoel, Israel had to do the same thing.
Yes, he did.
He had to dig deep for that
victory
versus Israel, right?
No, Israel had to dig deep against Kelvin. Yes, yes.
So, I mean, that everything that we've mentioned so far should make for a really fantastic interesting competitive fight, right? Yeah. So now we can actually start talking about some tactics in this fight or how it might play out. Now, the first thing that came to mind as far as like a concern was, I mean, Kelvin's a really good fighter, right? But Robert is the champion, and we believe that he's the champion for a reason. If Kelvin was able to do that to Israel, what is Robert going to be able to do to him? Right? If Kelvin could touch him, what's Robert going to do when he touches him? Right? So you have to consider that. But also, this is a fighter that we've never seen Robert take on. We know he can take on Yoel twice, right? But this is the tallest guy he's fought by like 3 inches or 4 inches, I think.
Yeah.
And the rangiest guy. And possibly, other than Uriah Hall a couple years ago.
He's long, too.
Yeah.
He's a long guy.
The flashiest technical striker that he's fought, right?
Since what, Silva?
No, I'm talking about Whittaker.
No, but you're saying flashiness. Like, last time we saw someone as flashy since Silva? Would you make that argument?
Yeah, but I mean more specifically, like the flashiest fighter that we've seen Robert fight, because Robert fought Uriah Hall a couple years ago, right? And that's honestly one of my favorite performances from Robert Whittaker was versus Uriah Hall, and I wonder if he's going to take a similar approach. So, okay, so here's ultimately what it comes down to. I feel like they both have a really good chance at victory, which is what makes this fight so compelling and so unbelievably hard to pick for me.
I agree.
However, I feel like there are more paths to victory for Robert than there are for Israel.
I would agree with that, yeah.
I think if Israel wins this fight, it's going to be the way that everyone expects it to happen. Right. It's probably going to be
a knockout.
Okay. Like by a knee, a head kick, something flashy, something strong, or a strong technique that leads to the finishing sequence.
Yeah.
As opposed to Robert, I think Robert has really sneaky boxing. He has this way of blitzing, and he blitzes where he's like ducking underneath, and he sets things up where like he'll rush forward and he'll duck down, and it looks like he's gonna come up with a head kick, and he'll like come over with a cross from the other side. It's really sneaky the way he gets these strikes in. All right, we'll just take a pause for a moment. All right, yeah. So catching up on the ways to victory. So when it comes to the striking game, we all know what Israel Adesanya can do to Robert Whittaker, right? But I feel like Robert Whittaker's striking is also very good.
Yeah, don't take his striking lightly, guys.
No. He's dropped a lot of people, and he's got like this really sneaky way of landing shots. He's really aggressive, and I don't feel like a lot of people give him enough credit for that. But it's the way that he goes about being aggressive that's really interesting to me. He has like this way of blitzing where he'll come in and he'll like duck under, right? Which a lot of guys do. They'll throw a strike, they come in, they duck under, they come back up, and they throw a strike. Robert, though, not only is he being like smart about the way he blitzes defensively, but he also like uses it to like set stuff up. He'll come in and rush, and it'll look like he's like setting up for like a head kick or something, and then he'll come over from the opposite side with a hand. It's really interesting. So I think on the feet, obviously, people are favoring Israel because of his style, but I feel like Robert has an equal chance of finishing this fight with strikes. For sure. And then grappling.
Yeah.
The knock on Israel is that he hasn't fought anybody that's like a top-tier grappler. And when you think of Robert, you don't think of him as like a top-tier grappler like a Jacare or a Yoel, but he is. He just doesn't necessarily use it as much as the other guys, right? But I think this is finally a guy that can actually wrestle. Yeah. That's fighting Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, I don't think this fight's going to go on the ground. I really think this is going to be a stand-up type of fight.
You think so?
I think both fighters will want this to be, because I think like you said, like Robert knows he can knock him out.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's going to be gunning for.
Yeah.
And then Adesanya, I think he knows like, no, you can't knock me out. Like I'm going to come at you.
Yeah.
And based on what their last fights kind of played out, I'm thinking these guys are going to want to keep it on the floor. Now, if it goes on the ground, it goes on the ground. But I think these guys want to keep it on the floor and really put on a show.
Now, I will say this. Typically, Robert likes to – I mean, he's a vicious ground and pounder. But I believe just because of the size of Israel and how just smart and tenacious Israel is.
Right.
If this fight does go to the ground, I don't see Robert favoring
mauling him, or
I don't see him. I feel like if this goes to the ground, believe it or not, I feel like Robert's going to try to submit him.
I can see that happening.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Israel on the ground that much, honestly. So I don't know what it's going to look like.
Right.
And same with Robert. I haven't, granted, I've only seen him fight, 2 fights?
Yeah.
The last fight, he was really mainly on his feet the whole time. So I don't know what it's going to look like on the ground. But I'm expecting fireworks from this fight. I think with this being in their hometown and, with Robert pulling out on the last card that he was going to fight in Australia, I think he really wants to put on a show.
Yeah.
And I know Israel wants, because he knows this is, like you mentioned, this is the biggest fight ever.
Yeah.
As far as attendance and what this means for those fighters in that part of the world.
Yeah.
I think they want to come out and put on a show, bro.
I can't freaking wait.
I really think so. As far as who's going to win, I feel like you're leaning on, a lot of people may hate me, and I've been saying watch out for Israel since his last 2 fights. One of my buddies, Andy, hated the fact that I said Israel, like, keep an eye on him.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't. I don't know what it is, but I hope if he wins, I hope he's a believer now. But I'm leaning on Israel in this fight. He has all the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Very flashy, very smart. I think very confident guy.
Oh, yeah.
Very confident. And there's just something about that I just like. He's going to go in giving it everything he's got. And I like him. I like him a lot. Now, you're right. There are a lot of scenarios that can go against Israel and that favor against Robert. But I love rooting for the guy that you don't expect to win, right? Like, you don't expect him to pull this off against Robert that everyone's, out there saying, like, Robert's the guy, Robert's the king, and all this. And here comes Israel, the new flashy kid in the block. And there's just something about him that he's just a different guy.
Yeah.
Right. And I just have a hunch in my back saying that he might pull this off.
Man, this one's so hard. It's obviously hard to pick any fight.
For sure.
Because you never know what can happen, right? And you're always in danger of, like, eating your words, right? But, like, this is...
Well, that's why we watch this. That's why we all love sports,
But, like, this fight in particular, I can't think of another one. Maybe Conor Khabib, maybe. Where internally in my head, if I get it wrong, I'm going to feel so fucking stupid.
Well, you shouldn't feel that way,
you know
bro.
What I mean?
Yeah, we're not experts.
Because, and I don't necessarily mean it like that. I just mean, like, when I try to, in my head, like, build a case for either guy,
right?
Every time I look at it, whichever fighter I'm looking at,
I agree.
I think, like, well, how is this guy not going to win? Like, of course this dude's going to win, right? So the fact that I'm like that with both of these dudes,
right,
it just makes this fight so hard to pick.
Yeah.
And it makes it and that's why it makes it seem like if the person that I pick loses, it's like, well, of course that other guy won. Like, of course he won. You know what I mean? But down to the nitty gritty, right? So who are you picking?
Israel. I'm gonna be picking Israel Adesanya 243. Let's go, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Do you have a method or a round?
So this is a 5-rounder. Yeah. I'm gonna go with a decision win.
Okay, that's a good.
I'm going with
pick.
Decision.
I
have a lot of respect for Robert. I don't see him getting knocked out.
Okay.
He's a very durable guy.
He is.
Just a fighter's fighter. So I'm gonna say this is gonna go all 5 rounds. We're gonna get a good show.
I'm gonna take Robert Whittaker via submission.
Submission, I like that. Okay, throwing a little twist in there.
Yeah.
What a round
statement.
If you had to pick a round.
The round I'm a little more uncertain on.
Okay.
I feel like it'll probably be third or fourth.
Yeah. Do you have a particular like what submission is he gonna pull off? A guillotine? Is he gonna pull off?
I'm gonna. There's I'll try to 2 if I can get the luxury of getting 2. I think I'm just a little bit too hyped up on the fact that I know that he was training with Craig Jones.
Okay.
So that being said, I feel like and it would be something that, like, he might want to put. I mean, I can see somebody putting in their game plan because it's so unexpected.
Yeah.
But I feel like if he submits him, he would submit him either by, like, heel hook, or like a knee bar or some shit like that.
Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. I like it.
But if it's not going to be something like that, then maybe maybe a guillotine. Maybe he stuns him. He's a little bit rocked, and he goes to like wrestle, puts him in that situation, and gets him a guillotine.
I feel like chances are more likely that he'll knock him out than submitting him.
Then he submits him.
Yeah, that's my feeling. Yeah. But
holy shit! I can't
overall, I mean, I'm very excited for this fight.
Yeah.
Big fight.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think like if one of these guys wins, like what it's gonna look like afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Like if Adesanya pulls off this win, the sky's the limit for this guy.
Yeah.
Already talking trash to John Jones.
Right.
Like I sent you a message how he was saying that he wants to fight John Jones 2021 in Raiders Stadium.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And we're gonna go if that happens.
Yeah, well yeah.
No question.
Man, I just feel like I feel bad. I honestly feel bad for either guy that loses, not just because it's such a huge fight to lose,
right?
Or no, maybe not. Because if we're gonna say that Paulo fights the winner,
I forgot about that. Paulo's and he's gonna be at the event, so I'm expecting whoever the winner is, they're gonna be in an interaction between those two.
Yeah,
the winner and Paulo.
I was gonna say I feel bad for the loser because that means that they probably have to fight Paulo, but Paulo's probably fighting for the title next. So
let me ask you this. Let's just say, let's say whoever the winner is, they fight Paulo.
Yeah.
How do you like Paulo against the winner between these two fighters?
Oh, no.
I'm going to tell you right now.
You would have put me on the spot.
I'm sorry, but it's got me thinking, right?
Yeah.
And I love doing this, by the way. I'm very high on Adesanya. I think I'm even higher than Paulo.
Okay, so here's the thing. It's so difficult to, like, for example, Francis. Remember when we were having this conversation about Francis and you're like, I think you're putting too much stock on Francis's power,
You think I'm
right?
putting too much stock in Paulo?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I feel like that's totally a fair thing to say is, like, you might be putting too much stock on somebody's power. Because, like, for example, like, John Lineker at 135 has incredible power and has beat a lot of good guys, but
for sure.
he's not the guy, right?
Sure.
Same thing with Francis. Obviously, like, his power was what was doing crazy shit, and then look what happens when he got in a cage with like a real mixed martial artist, like well-rounded, right? I think what we've seen, I think before his fight with Yoel, I would have not necessarily taken Paulo because I'm like, this dude just has a bunch of power, right? But now you add on top of that the dude can move forward constantly after taking bombs from Yoel Romero. To me, the way to beat a guy like that is you beat him everywhere else, like what Stipe did to Francis, right? But I think Paulo probably has a little bit better gas tank than Francis did in that first fight, and ultimately, I think he's just so unbelievably strong and powerful that he's just gonna melt whoever's in front of him.
It's very interesting to think what would Paulo look like against these two fighters and what he looks like in a 5-rounder.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But yeah, I'm very high on Paulo.
I feel like
very high on him.
I think because the thing is, like,
oh shit, that scared me.
Right? The thing is, Robert fought Yoel twice.
Yeah.
So you can say, like, well, obviously Robert can take a hit, right? But the thing is, the way that Yoel strikes made it a little bit easier for Robert to, like, read stuff. Because when he was getting hurt is when Robert would come in and they were standing at range and exchanging, right? But if you stand at distance with Yoel, he's like so calm and so patient and like so almost like lulling and like slow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it's a little bit easier. Granted, he's very, very explosive.
Yeah.
Now you take the same thing, that same power, and you put him in a guy that's constantly in your face, relentless pressure.
Yeah.
I feel like if Robert ever fights Paulo, he's gonna try to wrestle the shit out of him. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because he took a lot of bombs from Yoel.
Yeah, he did.
But after all of this, like,
he did.
I feel like if Paulo gets his hands on him,
I think he.
So Robert can win that fight, but he's got to wrestle the shit out of him.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting what would happen to see if he fights Israel. I wonder how Israel would take that fight.
Exactly.
Now I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I think eventually, I think Paulo is inevitably the next champion.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, let's not get too far ahead, but let's focus really on this fight. But yeah, just a theory out there how Paulo. I mean, because he's the next guy up after this one. So yeah, man, I'm excited for this one.
Yeah. Now the co-main.
Yeah, co-main. So Dan Hooker and Al Iaquinta.
Yeah. So other than a weird performance where he got beat to a fucking pulp by Edson Barboza, Dan Hooker looked great again versus James Vick, and he looked great. he's looked great ever since moving up to 155. Other than Edson Barboza, he has finished everybody at 155.
Dan Hooker?
Yes.
Okay. Is this his biggest challenge in the division yet?
I feel like yes and no. I feel like obviously Edson was a giant challenge for him, which is why it resulted the way that it did. I feel like the struggle here is that Dan Hooker, he's obviously a finisher, right?
I'm looking at the record. I'm sorry. I'm looking at because you said he knocked out everyone, so I'm looking at
So I don't
the
think
guys that he KO'd.
I don't think Dan Hooker is in there to point fight. He's in there to finish the fight, and Al Iaquinta is a very durable guy.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, look, Al Iaquinta went 5 rounds with Khabib. Al Iaquinta went 5 rounds with Cowboy. It's not easy to put this dude out.
Right.
So, I'm gonna take Dan Hooker. But it's a little contradictory in my opinion because the way that I would see Dan Hooker winning would be to finish him.
Yeah.
And I just laid out why I don't think Dan Hooker's going to finish him.
Right.
So I may have just I did just contradict myself. But
yeah, you did.
I think ultimately Dan Hooker is the more dangerous fighter.
Okay.
And so maybe he squeaks out this decision, not necessarily in there trying to point fight, but by just landing more significant strikes. More strikes that would make you go, oh, you know what I mean?
So then you're leaning on Dan Hooker?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think he has a resume as Al Iaquinta, does he?
Well, I mean, Al Iaquinta's beat Kevin Lee twice.
Mm-hmm.
He's beat.
Has he beat Cowboy?
No, he lost against Cowboy.
That's right. I'm sorry.
Now, I believe. Holy shit! Did Al Iaquinta? Never mind. I don't want to sound like a complete dumbass, but I'm pretty sure there's a particular victory on here. I don't want to mention it before I.
Don't worry. I got Google up.
Yeah, I was right. Al Iaquinta beat Jorge Masvidal.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
How long ago was that? That was in 2015.
Yeah.
That was years ago, bro.
Yeah.
It's 4 years ago?
Yeah, no.
He's beat Diego Sanchez. He lost against Khabib. He's beaten Kevin Lee, and then lost against Cerrone.
Yeah.
So.
Meanwhile, Hooker's finished James Vick. He finished Gilbert Burns, who looked fantastic. We were just talking about him earlier.
Right.
He finished Mark Jacasey, who is a fucking dangerous person. He finished Jim Miller. I mean,
right. Yeah. Okay. Well, it seems like you're set on Dan Hooker winning this.
Yeah.
I haven't watched him fight, so I don't think it'd be fair for me to give a prediction.
Okay.
Let's see what else we got. Any other fights we should talk on? I mean, are those really the two that most people are looking forward to on this card?
Yeah, for sure. And then we touched on Tai Tuivasa. I want to see Jorgen De Castro because of the Contender Series, and I hope Megan Anderson has.
She's fighting. Is she on the prelims, huh?
Yeah, I hope she's got a good performance in store for us.
Okay.
I think that's it, though.
I think that's it for 243, man. I can't fucking wait.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, man. Let's talk about 244, bro. Nah. I mean, the only announcement that came out of the card was Gregor Gillespie
versus
and Kevin Lee. And you said you're thinking Kevin Lee is going to get another loss in his belt.
Unfortunately, I do.
Okay.
I respect the guy for trying to take difficult fights, but at this stage in his career, I feel like he should have been a little bit more judicious when picking his opponent.
Let me just read off this fucking card, and let's see if you can agree with me that this is probably the best card that they put on all year long, right?
Okay, and we went to a really good one.
We went to a fantastic one. Let's look at this one. Masvidal, Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
Main event.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Lewis, and I'm surprised it's a co-main event.
Blagoy-Ivanov?
Yeah, I've seen him fight a couple
weird.
times.
I would think Gastelum versus Till would have been
I would think so too. That's interesting. I don't think that's a co-main.
Okay.
Because I'm looking this up in Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Which isn't the best place to research fillers.
The only thing that I would say is that
Darren Till and Kevin Gastelum is co-main according to the UFC website.
Cool, sick.
So I just shouldn't be looking at Wikipedia.
Wonder Boy versus Vicente Luque.
So hold on before we get there. So I said Masvidal, Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
Take all my money. Kevin Gastelum, Darren Till. Come on, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Anderson, Johnny Walker.
Oh shit.
Wonder Boy Thompson, Vicente Luque.
Yep.
Derek Lewis and
Blagoy-Ivanov.
Andre Arlovsky. And I can't pronounce this guy's name. Rosenstrick.
Oh, Yair Rosenstrick. Yeah, that guy.
How you say his first name?
Oh, Jairzinho.
Jairzinho.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not gonna try to pronounce these guys' name. I suck. Kevin Lee and Gregor Gillespie, which I'm gonna assume that this is not gonna be in the main card.
No, it's probably a prelim.
Probably a prelim, like a headliner prelim.
Mm-hmm.
What are some notable ones? These guys I'm not really too familiar, but I just named you.
That's a lot of good fights right there. Yeah.
And terrific fights, bro. Like any of these fights can be a main event in a fight night.
Yeah.
And you're putting all that in a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Do you think this is gonna? Does this look like the biggest fight card that they put on all year long?
Yeah, and it's at Madison Square Garden. Oh yeah.
Fantastic fucking card, bro. I cannot wait for this. We're gonna invite my buddy Mark into our pre-show UFC 244 when we get to that week.
Yeah.
To talk about the fight. So I'm excited about having him on. He's been watching UFC since the years in Fox, since fucking Randy Couture, Tito Ortiz. So he knows a thing or two about UFC and has been following it along. So it'd be good to bring him on and get his thoughts on this card, and we can continue talking about this. So yeah, man. I don't think there's anything else that's been happening the last week.
Right.
I think there's one more thing we haven't touched on that I feel like you want to.
What's that?
Cyborg getting an immediate shot against Julia Budd. I knew you want to talk about that.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense. It's just that for me personally, like, and maybe I have this backwards from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a train of thought thing, a school of thought thing. But to me, like, you make this big splash about getting Cyborg. Cyborg's fighting in Bellator now.
Yeah.
I feel like if we're just gonna go out on a limb here and say that Cyborg is the obvious favorite to beat Julia Budd, right? Let's go even a step further and just all the way out there and say that Cyborg is very much expected to beat Julia Budd, which I don't agree with. I'm just okay. Then why would you just, like, for lack of, I mean, I don't want to use that term, but, like, why would you just
throw it out there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
It would make more sense to have, like, Julia Budd defend one more time.
Right.
Cyborg fight somebody else.
Right.
And now we have,
so
we've seen Cyborg fight in Bellator now. We've seen Julia Budd defend her title again.
Yeah.
It adds more legitimacy to her own title.
Right.
To me, that would have been the way to go.
Yeah.
But now they're going straight at it. And Julia Budd had some things to say this earlier. I don't know if it was today or a couple days ago on Sirius Radio. And
right.
I feel like she's got a point.
Right.
Basically, what she was saying is that she feels like they're already treating Cyborg like she's the champion. You were there, actually. She was at the same event. She says that, like, they had a camera crew following her around everywhere.
Yeah,
they were putting stuff up on the Titantrons for Cyborg. Apparently there was, like, a bunch of famous people there, and Bellator was taking all the famous people to go meet Cyborg, but they weren't taking them to go meet her.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm the fucking champion. You know what I mean? So one interesting thing to note, though, is that she said that she fought Amanda Nunes and Ronda Rousey earlier in her career, Julia Budd. She says that she wasn't ready for those fights, right? And she says that she's really excited that this big fight, this biggest fight of her career, she is more than ready for. And she's
I hope so.
And she's like, I'm gonna make people eat their words. Like, people are already crowning her. She's the queen. People are overlooking me. She's like, that's fine. She goes, well, we'll see what happens January 25th.
We'll see, man. We'll see. I think we both agree that we felt like Cyborg should have taken a tune-up fight before giving her a title fight.
Mm-hmm.
When they announced it, I was surprised. I didn't think train again, just real quick. I felt like she should have got a tune-up fight before a title fight. But, it's just part of the business. I mean, Cyborg is a draw.
As Max Holloway said,
it is what it is. Yeah, Cyborg is a big name. She just came off from the UFC. I mean, I think it was a business move for Bellator to put it in there right away. And on top of that, I think it's headlining the Forum next year in January. So
correct.
As far as a business standpoint, it makes sense.
Yep.
It wouldn't have been the way that I would have gone, but it is what it is.
Right.
Can't really do much about it. I'm excited for the fight either way.
Yep.
I think this is going to be Julia Budd's toughest opponent, no question.
Yeah.
And I like Cyborg in this fight.
Yeah, of course.
I think so.
But to anybody watching, Julia Budd is legit. Like,
no, I wouldn't doubt that at all. But I'm gonna lean on Cyborg on this one.
All right.
Is that what you lean on?
Yeah.
We're still like months away, so it's premature to really dive into this fight. But
yeah.
Just quick thoughts, because I know when I text you about it, you weren't too happy.
No.
So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else we want to dive into.
I think that's it.
Should we wrap it up?
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
All right, guys. We will see you next week.
Any closing remarks real quick? Follow us on social media.
Yes.
Give us a sub.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Hit us up on Instagram, on Twitter, Casual Talk MMA.
Yep.
As always, the reason we're doing this is because we obviously like talking about it. We like talking to each other, but we really want to talk to everybody else that we don't have access to. That's why we have this amazing thing called social media.
And if you guys have any comments or anything to give us feedback on, feel free to leave some comments. Like, we actually do read that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we really appreciate any feedback, whether it's positive or negative, because we've had a lot of Khabib fanboys hating on us.
And I feel like we do a pretty good job of not really
staying neutral. Yeah. I really try to stay neutral, but hey, man, I get it.
Yep.
I really get it. So, yeah, just if any comments or feedback you want to leave us, please leave us comments. It's really much appreciated.
Yep. See you guys next week.
See you guys. Fuck you, Manny.
That should be a thing. We just end every show like that.
I know, right?